Okay, we have a resurrection and healing system in this map. The problem is just if we find the other, we can find the another pretty quickly. Just follow the corners or the wall. But the problem is this is not what we came here for. This allows us to stay here without too much trouble. Primarily we need a map, because this could take ages to wander around here aimlessly. And we should find allies, or at least some other culture here. I'm assuming lizardmen probably, because that's all we have encountered so far. But they haven't been exactly friendly, so this might end up in another bloodbath for us. So no new allies, but new enemies. Not even enemies, pretty much just wandering around and nothing happening. Okay, this looks different. Death to the humans! Lizard woman with a bra, a nice pair of breasts. I don't see how lizard men would have breasts since they're not mammals, but okay. Okay, and 12 lizard men. Okay, they're in groups of 2 to 3 all around us. Okay, I have to attack. I think I'll start with Bless. I won't be using these spells. There's 2 spread out and they weren't exactly that dangerous anyway, so I'll bless our group and hope that's enough. Okay, it only affects a random number of people, so I'll be casting the second bless spells to. Basically, I'm just expecting to get to hit bonuses, so less missing, more actually doing damage and killing people. No, we don't want to bless the enemies. Okay, I think it only has like a 1 square range, so we have to be in very tight groups to get the full effect. It might even give us a +1 damage bonus, so that would be a very powerful buff on these low damage slings especially. Not so much with melee weapons. Well, we aren't missing too badly, so it probably has an effect, but it's really hard to tell. Impossible even. We're just going to have to trust that it does actually give us some kind of bonus. And well, there weren't actually any decent second level spells for us to choose from, so it was basically this or nothing. Okay, now speaking of those spells like darkness and light, I'm a little concerned about the duration. There's nothing to indicate how long it lasts. It likely isn't going to be permanent. That's a little bit too much, I think. So They might still actually affect most monsters, but if the duration is small, it won't make much of a difference against powerful enemies, because we can't take them out in a few seconds anyway. So it might just give us a window of opportunity when they won't be attacking us. So instead of spamming them with the light and dark spell, it might be that we need to sort of chain them. Every time we see the opponent act again, we'll throw another one on him. And since we have two spellcasters, both with two disabling spells, we could possibly disable even a decently powerful opponent for a decent amount of time, enough at least to severely wound him, possibly even kill him. But really, that's pretty much impossible to know until we try it out. Well, when we have to leave this area, the enemies will probably have respawned in the game. So if the large monster that we had trouble also has respawned, we'll have a pretty good test opponent for our spells and tactics. That would be great, because we seem to be encountering a lot of powerful enemies in the wilderness. Especially ones that we can't engage in melee, so we'll always have to run away and sort of bombard them with missiles, and I'm not really a fan of that. It sort of seems like it's a smart thing to do considering the mechanics, but it seems like sort of the wrong thing to do from the game's perspective. But if we have these disabling spells work like I'm imagining they probably will, then we have an actual reliable method of dealing with those harder monsters. That would be great. Oh, over 1,000 gold. What else? What else? You find a handful of miniature gold idols encrusted with gems. So, money, probably. Curse you and your gold-skinned brethren to the north-east. So... you find several peculiar artifacts that Marmillion will want to see, and a map of the swamp. So this is what I think we've finished up our business here. Okay, there's the pool, there's the tree, and here's the village, and there doesn't seem to be anything else of interest. So actually I think we've cleared this area fully already. And the southern passage will probably lead to the cave we want to go, so we'll go south until and nothing else. We'll just go south, follow the right side corner and go south. No turning on the path. This was quite a nice little area. Opponents were appropriate for our level. Actually, I'm sort of wondering why the initial areas right outside the castle are so hard with giants, when these areas so far away are much more level appropriate for us. I think it would have made much more sense to not have the initial random counters be worse than the faraway plot. get plot related encounters, I guess. I don't see what the point really is. To have your new players who don't know the mechanics have weak characters encounter creatures they really have no way of dealing with. Maybe with the light and darkness spells, but you wouldn't know that when you start this game. Or maybe the manual tells us. That could be the answer. There's so little documentation in the actual game, so there might be a manual that they have sort of relied on telling the players all that kind of information. There's nothing to really indicate what even the spells do. I'm just remembering from my olden days of playing D&D and reading and from different D&D games. So I'm just assuming the spells will work pretty similarly, which clearly was a mistake, because they don't. Well, they do work in a similar fashion, but these are much more powerful spells. I'm assuming the developer knew that this was a combat-focused game, and so they made those spells a bit more combat-worthy. Because D&D was initially made as an actual table, you know, a role-playing game you play on pen and paper. So a lot of the spells, the utility of the spells transfers very well on that kind of situation, but not so well on a computer role-playing game. So I guess the developers have taken some creative liberties and improved on things as far as it comes to their games, because a lot of the spells a cleric would have makes no sense in this kind of game. I'm going to rest the party just to get spells. Okay. When we entered the cave quickly, I noticed that this blaze spell was still active, so it has a decent duration. So we might want to use it before entering the cave and then test out our blinding spells. Definitely our entangle spell. I don't. Sleep spell only affects low level beings, at least normally. I don't know if that's the case in this game. But I don't think we can put gigantic lizard monsters to sleep. It should only affect like humanoids.